All right, so good morning, everyone. Let's continue our discussion. Today, we are going to understand how a data engineer CV must look like. Okay, so you call it CV, you call it resume. It's one and same for me. So, without wasting time, okay, so the first thing what we should do is, since you guys are learning this data engineering stuff, right? So, your resume should never reveal that you were actually doing something else. For example, maybe you have 8 years of experience and like you're constantly working on, let's say, mainframe technology, or maybe ESP development, or maybe anything else, right? And then you are learning this data engineering, and since you have 8 years of experience, you are just trying to showcase your last a couple of years into big data, is not it? But then your resume should have all the ages of big data technologies, right? And then by looking at your resume, the interviewer must think that, okay, this guy has worked on data engineering stuff and not much into mainframe and all. I would not suggest you to keep that even in your resume, because when you keep a lot of technologies in your resume, it is very confusing. Okay, so I'll just go back. I'll share my resume format. I'll just cut sort it so that you understand what are the main like takeaway from it, and then you can just put it as usual. Okay, so let's go back. I'll share my screen. So look into this. Okay, so this is my sample resume. I've just like changed a couple of stuff here. So I would say it was updated almost 3 years ago. So you can put your resume like this. This is one such sample. You can follow the same format. You can go ahead and then use any other particular format. That's absolutely fine. Okay. So the first thing is your resume is to talk about what is the career objective you have. You can say developer with a solid 12 years of experience, 5 years of experience on Java, big data, looking forward on working on this big data cutting technologies and so on, right? And then you can give your synopsis, like the headlines, what exactly you have done in short, right? So like founded OLC, e-learning platform on latest technology, around 11 years of experience in Java, J2EE, big data and its ecosystem component, right? Around 8 years of experience in Hadoop and its ecosystem component, programming Java since 1.2, whatever, whatever achievement you feel you have, you just make a note of it so that, it should be eye catchy. Make sure that you put something, make sure that you make the letters bold, italics kind of stuff to give the value to a particular term, right? Like for example, programming Java, it's okay since 2004. That's absolutely awesome, right? So something like this. So consulting US clients and foreign university students on big data project, practical exposure on Scala, Spark, Kafka, Elasticsearch, MapReduce, Hive, HBase, UG, Scoop, Elasticsearch, so on. Now, if you are not sure about any technology, if you feel you do not know something very much better, I would suggest you to skip it completely. Okay, don't even put it on your resume, because you put everything on the resume and you cannot, if you cannot answer even a simple question out of it, you are gone, right? So make sure that before you are putting anything, you have a very good knowledge on it, right? And then you can also put what are the like domain you have worked on, like good knowledge on banking, insurance, and railway domain. If you have worked on railways, you have worked on insurance, you have worked on banking, and so on. Next, then comes your achievements, where you can put what are the achievements you have really achieved during your professional career. For example, I wrote given technical talks on Hadoop at corporate level at Procurement and Capgemini. You can also put similar thing if you have done any sort of internal training to your folks. Awarded as the best Java trainer at Capgemini Hyderabad for 2 consecutive years. Again, you can put whatever you have achieved. SCJP in the year 2008, BTech second year. When I was doing BTech second year, I was so much interested to take up this Java program that I borrowed some money from my parents again and did the certification. Anyways, instructor at Udemy and currently managing YouTube channel, this and that, whatever. So you can put your achievements, whatever you have in this part again. Next, then educational qualification. You can put your education qualification list somewhere like this, like BTech from this year, 12th I completed on this year, 10th I completed on this year from students to college. And you can also mention your percentage if you have good percentage, right? So for example, if you have at least 60%, 70% decent enough, you can still put them here that I have scored this and that, so that like when somebody looks into your resume, the HR should not come back to you and say, hey, can you tell me how much mark you have scored on your 12th, right? Because most of the time when the companies are hiring for, let's say, a mid-level position or a junior level position or entry level position, then this percentage matters a lot, right? But then when you have 10 years of experience, you can definitely remove it also, no problem at all. Okay, it does not really make any sense now. So this is what you should have, right? And all together. And then you can have your technical profile wherein you will put all the skills, whatever you have worked on. And if you want to put the versions, you can also put the versions, of course. Okay. Like for example, skills, Hadoop distributions, what are the distributions you have worked on? I wrote Cloudera 5.10 2 years ago. Now Hadoop components, what are the, like when I say Hadoop components, I kept everything here together. I kept also Scala also here because I have used this with respect to big data, right? But then you can put them in a separate chapter called language. It's okay. You can put them on a language, like what are the languages you know, C, C++, Java, Scala, and all that. Absolutely fine. Okay. And then Spark Core, what are the modules you have worked on? Spark Core, Spark SQL, Spark Streaming, and whatever you feel you want to put them, you are confident about it, you can put them all together here. Okay. Hive, Scoop, Uzi, and so on. Databases, what are the databases you have worked on? HBase, a database, MongoDB, a database, Oracle database, a database, and so on. Like Java components, now here I wrote all my Java components, like Java, which version you have used, Spring, what version of Spring you have all currently used, RESTful Web Services, SOAP. So these are all the technologies which I worked on my previous experiences as well. Tools, what are the tools you know? Like I know Maven, I know SonarQube, I know Log4j, I know JUnit, I know Zookeeper, I know Logstash. Likewise, you can put a lot of tools over here if you want. This Zookeeper is not a big data component, but you can also put it over here. Big data components you can definitely put because we have worked on it as part of your data engineering jobs. That's absolutely okay. Okay, FileBeat, Elasticsearch, and so on. Done. Servers, have you ever deployed any sort of web applications? If yes, what are the servers you have used? Tomcat 8.0, Glassfish 3.x, and so on. So these were all my previous job where I was working on some sort of web projects as well, where the deployment has to be done, and then we used Tomcat 8.0, right? So this is purely optional, but then I would suggest you to make your resume in such a way that it should clearly give an indication to the interviewer that you are a Java guy, you are a Scala guy, you are a hardcore programmer, you are doing big data stuff, right? And that is the key differentiator, because the moment you put you are working on mainframe, you are working on this and that, the interviewer would start assuming that, you know, maybe you have just taken a training from somewhere and you are just trying to claim it up. And now the mindset of the interviewer would not be to hire you. The mindset will completely change. It's like this guy is faking it up, and then I really don't want him to work on my project, and I'll start asking some difficult questions right now. Okay, so that also happens. Okay, so if you put all these things, then interviewer would say, okay, this is a hardcore guy, and I should not ask him some stupid questions, and then let's ask them only the questions which are very very relevant to the job. Anyways, next, now you have your experience profile where you can put what are the organizations you have worked with, right? So like I've just removed all my employment here just to make it short and sweet. So what you can do is, let's say you have worked on one company, and then you change your second company, and then you change your third company, and so on. So you can just write here what are the companies, when did you join, from when to when, and what was your designation, right? So this will clearly indicate, this will clearly help any recruiter, anybody to understand that, okay, you have changed 3 companies altogether, and then this were your tenure in all those companies, and this would help them to understand where exactly you have worked in the past, right? Whatever. And now comes the main important thing, that recent projects. Okay, so see, I have around 11 years of experience now, and I've worked almost with 6-7 companies altogether, right? But then it's not possible for me to write 6-7 projects. If I write 6-7 projects, then this becomes a big Bible, is not it? And then I really don't want to like print a book and give it to a recruiter saying that this is my book, you just study and this contains all my resume. And that's the reason I have just written my recent projects. Okay, so you really don't have to write all those 10 projects, whatever you have worked on. Even if you have 10 years of experience, 12 years of experience, you can happily put 3 to 4 years, 3 to 4 projects maximum, just to say what exactly you have done on those projects. Okay, now if you see, I'll talk about one project which I worked in my last job, Apple Map Data Validation Tool. So I was working on some like tool, I was creating some jobs which will help us to look into the raw data that comes as part of the like a project, and that raw data would have a lot of structures. We'll have to go through, we'll have to process that raw data, and then validate few things, like if we have this data or not, if we have that data or not, all these things are matching or not. So we have a list of rules, and we just had to make sure that before we even process this data, we had to create a validation tool that can help us to process the data altogether. Okay, so now if you see, I've just given a details about this, like MMI is a third party vendor which provides data in form of save file. The data is revised every 2 months, and we would like to validate if the new changes have any structural changes or data missing from any previous job. And technology used are Scala, JDBC, Python. There was some Python script also I had to work on, SQL queries, Spark, Drake, what my workflow, and so on. Drake was some internal to the company itself, right? And then I have written a long story of the responsibility. The responsibility I've written it really long, so that every time when I go to the interview, I should be able to recollect what exactly I have done, right? So that's what it was. So we'll not talk about this right now, but the whole agenda is I want you to like understand how the resume should be written. A very neat and clean resume, and you should have like all the informations here, and know where your resume should tell that you were a mainframe developer or any other like developer earlier. You were a hardcore programmer. That's what the whole agenda is. Okay, so responsibilities, did this and that and whatnot, right? So we'll talk about this kind of sample projects separately, so that you can understand what exactly are we doing, how exactly we write the code. Okay, so we'll have this discussion on the separate project session. Second last project was E2 Deep, which was for one of the startup, right? And then I worked there for from 2016 to 2018, and the role was developer, this and that. And if you see here, we have a lot of stuff put together. So now these are not the technologies which I have worked all together, right? I cannot work as a big data developer, and I cannot really build the Android code as well, right? But then this is basically the tools and technology that is completely used in the whole project, just to give a feeling that what kind of project I have worked on in the past, right? So in short, we were building an application which can help a user to take some loan instantly within 5 minutes. Okay, and then there's a lot of things, the data, your SMS data, your like mobile data would be captured by the company, and we do a profiling of the candidate. And then once we do the profiling, we give them a score, and that score can help the bank to decide if we should give a loan to that particular candidate or not. Okay, so that's what we have all together in this project, right? But then after that, you should write your responsibilities, worked on auto regex, this and that, and so on. We'll talk about this as we move on in a separate session about the projects part, what kind of projects we do. Okay, next, then we have another project here, intelligent directory, which I worked on when I was a part of Optum United Health Group. I worked there for 2-3 months, and then I joined the startup, of course, right? So if you see, the role was developer there. We had a big team of 40 people all together. Pig was used that time. Okay, now this is outdated. HBase, Elasticsearch, REST web services, and all. And again, there is some sort of description about the job, the project, and then the responsibility of the project. Okay, and then similarly, we had one more project which I worked with Union Pacific Railroad. Again, we have like a lot of description over here. And then finally, personal profile, where you can just give your name, you can give your date of birth, the languages hobbies, current location, and then you just update the date, and then you give your signature, and that's all you have, right? So this is how you should basically create your resume. And the question is, people usually say, give a one-pager resume, prepare a one-pager resume. It looks very nice to read on, but then when you give a one-pager resume, like I feel you are not able to express a lot of stuff altogether, right? And that's where people would always want to know more about it, right? What I'll say is a 3 to 4 page should be okay. It should not be like just it has to be one pager. I don't know how do I even convert my resume to a one pager. So it's absolutely fine. You have 3-4 page of resume. That's absolutely okay. At the end of the day, you have a lot of experience, and then where do you put all these projects all together, right? And if you see, we have already filtered a lot of projects. As I said, like, keep the description short, keep 3-4 projects that can explain what exactly you have done in that project. So whatever project you are doing as part of our OLC DE1 and DE2 program, right? Specifically the DE2 programs, all those projects you can put as it is in your resume, because that is the modified version of what exactly I have worked, or right. So you can happily put them as it is in your resume, and get the work done. For example, somebody is asking me about the file splitter project, right? So look into this over here. This is what it was, a file distribution service, which will help us to distribute the file and stitch it back. That's what you have learned. So now, see, like a lot of people have a lot of different experience, right? So there are few people who are completely freshers, and if you are a fresher, I will suggest you not to put a lot of story. Like, don't put like you have done, like machine learning, you have done data science, data engineering, you have done Android development and all these things. Be little specific to what role you are actually looking into, right? So if you have more experience, let's say somebody is saying, Suraj, I have 13 years of experience and current company I've completed 6 years. How should I build the resume on big data? I'm planning to put relevant 3.5 in current project with Spark data engineering and not mention MapReduce. That's absolutely fine, because you can say I've been working on Spark since last 3 years, and I'm not worked on MapReduce part of course, right? So choose some of the technology like Scala, be very good at Scala. Spark is the hardcore thing that you must learn. Scala, Spark, and HBase. Okay, one database you need, of course, and let's say Hive, right? These four components at least you should put and showcase your resume. So if you have 6 years of experience, I would suggest you to put at least 3 projects in your resume, right? Because even if you have 6 years of experience, you should put 3 years of working experience on data engineering, right? So you can convert whatever you have worked on existing project. Try to see if you can. What if the data would have been really big? Would you not convert that into a big data project? Of course, yes, right? So you can use that motivation and then convert that. Choose the technology that should make a lot of sense out of it. Now, a little description about each project should be all good, right? Because at the end of the day, people, when you are writing any project, for example, if I say Apple Maps data validation tool, so you can give little information exactly like what exactly you are trying to do, and then you can put your roles and responsibilities. Okay. Now, PySpark is okay. Yes. See, at the end of the day, it's your choice. If you are very much comfortable in PySpark, you can put PySpark. Keep Python as your language. Make sure that you are a master in Python, right? Because when you say PySpark, we assume that you're very good in Python and you should be able to solve the problems using the Python, of course, right? And if you're using Java and Scala, you should put Java and Scala in your resume, and make sure that you are very good in Java, right? It's not like a basic knowledge. You should be very good in Java and Scala. As I said, take it up, learn this Java exclusively so that you can do anything in Java. Learn this Scala exclusively. It's not like little bit you are learning just for the sake of like writing a Spark job. No, you have to prove yourself that you are a hardcore developer, right? In order to be hired. That's what it is. That will give you a lot of advantage in the interview. The interviewer would be interviewing you, the interviewer would be interviewing me as well as the other folks, right? And at the end of the day, when I am showing that I have a hardcore programming background and I have done a lot of stuff in my projects, it would give me a big chance to get hired. Yes, if you put Java, then your 30-35 minutes can be booked in the Java interviews, right? And then and the biggest advantage, Java is almost 25 years old, is not it? Right? So I wrote my first Java program, Hello World, 17 years ago, and it's like already 25 years old, and I don't think it's not available in the internet. You can learn a lot of Java stuff in the internet, right? So it is, you should take the advantage of it, definitely, for sure. Yeah, how about SQL, right? Yeah. So you can also put that as in your resume, SQL. But let me tell you one thing, that a programming language like Java and SQL should never be a question. It has to be a de facto, right? Like anybody, even a PHP developer who is building some web application should be good in SQL. Otherwise, how do you pull the data from the database, right? So you should definitely have a very good hold on SQL. And let me tell you, a programming language and SQL should not be a part of your preparation. You should not even include it. That has to come by default, right? You are a developer, you should know a programming language and you should know a SQL, no doubt at all. Yeah. So The question is, can we mention OLC training to supplement our skill? Like I'm a data engineer, but then taking a training to get it better. What you can do is you can say train on like data engineering from our company, right? So in that way, you would be getting much more advantage, because when you just say OLC, then it may give you a doubt initially, right? Like, okay, maybe this guy has just learned and he has come back, right? But then the story is a little different. See, when you are first trying for a job, right, that time you are trying yourself to market a lot, right? And as you guys are posting a lot of course completion certificate and all, the recruiters are watching you. The recruiters, the problem is, like there is a very less people who have a good knowledge on data engineering stuff, right? And the recruiters by now they have understood the quality that OLC brings, right? And I've seen a lot of recruiters approaching me. I've seen a lot of recruiters approaching you guys when you are writing your post on LinkedIn and then tagging me out, because the recruiters understands the quality that OLC brings on the table, right? If you're going that way, it's absolutely fine that you can say, hey, I've taken a program from OLC, but then make sure that you show at least 3 to 4 years of experience. Okay, if you're just showing 1 year of experience, and if you're just saying that I have taken a training from OLC, then it would be a little difficult. But then if you say I'm a senior data engineer, but because see, like people are putting a course from Udemy, I've completed this course from Udemy. If that can happen, then why cannot OLC happen, right? When people can spend 400 rupees and get the course from Udemy, why can't they spend a lot of money and then take a better course at OLC on data engineering stuff, right? So can I put Scala without Java? You can, but I would suggest you to learn this Java also, because I would not recommend you to, like struggle like anything, right? Java is used everywhere, is not it? And then it's only 1 2 months of effort, and you are good in Java over the period of time, right? So don't hurt your profile by just saying that you don't know Java. You should learn Java definitely. Okay, yeah. So SQLs, it depends what people are actually looking into, and if you feel that they expect you to work on Windows function, see, like interviews are always a part of the life, and sometimes you may get some questions which you're not even prepared of, right? And you can say, I don't know. You can definitely move to the next question, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to hire a perfect candidate. They want to hire somebody who can solve the problems. So SQL is a must. You should put them anytime, right? It's not even a question. You should not even ask that question, right? So SQL should be present must in your resume, of course. Okay. Now, if you want to see, if you look into this resume and if you remove Java, then a lot of things would be removed, a lot of things. Okay. So if you see a database, now I've written here Oracle, that means I know SQL. It's very simple, is not it? And then if you remove Java, then probably you'll remove this, you'll remove this, you remove this, you'll remove this, and many other stuff altogether, probably. Okay, so there is a next question. Like for a person with more than 12 years of experience, mentioning 12 years in DE would be hard. Yes. So if you have 12 years of experience, see, like I've been working in this data engineering field since last 8 years, right? So if I can, if I have 8 years of experience, you can also put 8 years of experience. But if you feel that that's a little difficult for you because you're just in the learning stage right now, so what you can probably do is put at least 4 to 5 years of experience on data engineering field, right? And then the remaining thing you can put on your programming, work on your programming part, replace all this mainframe, whatever if you have worked on previously, replace that with a Python language, that's okay, or Java language, and so on. Now, if you are from any other background, right, I would suggest you see your profile has to completely align with the developer role. Okay, that's the whole agenda. That's the whole thing. So if you say I was working on Religare health insurance and my job was to I was selling the like premium to the customers, what should I do, right? You should never write that, because at the end of the day that will not help you get hired, right? So you'll have to put that, okay, you are working on Religare health insurance, but let's say you are working there as a data analyst and not just as a call center guy who is actually calling the customer and saying, sir, we have a policy, do you want to take it up? If you have 4 years of experience, close your eyes, put 4 years of experience. The course is good enough to support your 4 years of experience. You don't have to worry. So yeah, now after understanding all these things, right? So a couple of points I would like you all to also understand is, number one, what you can do, keep the LinkedIn, like URL also in your project, in your resume. That would be great. Okay. Second thing, If you have done some sort of projects, a side project, if you have, you can put a GitHub link, but then it's not really necessary, because most of the time as a real-time guys, we don't get a time to work on a side projects, right? So it's absolutely okay not to have a GitHub, of course, right? And then if you guys are solving some problems on, let's say, lead code, CodeCef, Codeforce, and so on, and if you can share that link, that also would be great, because that will help you to distinguish that you are better than a lot of candidates, because a lot of candidates do not do a problem solving. Okay, so if you say I have solved 200 problems on Codeforce or CodeCef, right, you get a lot of credibility out of it, because this guy is a programmer. Okay, he loves to solve problem. The chances of you getting hired would be much more. Okay, and next best advice that I can give you is, if you're looking for a job in the recently, then the first thing is change your profile to open to work, because that gives a symbol to the recruiter that this guy is actually looking for a job, right? And as I told you guys, that if you feel that your managers are in your LinkedIn, your peers are in LinkedIn, who you do not want to let know that you are actually looking for a job, block them out, because at the end of the day, if you block them, your life would be much more easier, right? And then you can start searching for a job, because LinkedIn is a network, like a platform, right, where you can build a good network. So I'll always suggest you to keep growing your network every time, right? And the other thing that I told you was, whatever you're learning from me, right? Like Hadoop, Spark, Scala, whatever you're learning, try to write a small post, right? Take the notes, screenshot of the notes, keep it on, post it on your LinkedIn, as we have seen a lot of students doing it. And then keep the habit of uploading the images of the notes, whatever you have done, and that will help you to gather a lot of connections. And anybody who's liking your post, and if they're not connected to you, please go ahead and then send a connection request, because these are the guys who would like your post again, right? And that's how you will basically create your network over the period of time. It may take a little time, but then over the period of time, you'll see your networks are growing. And it's very important to have a few data engineers on your profile, on your connections, then have a lot of non-related profiles on your connections on your LinkedIn profile. It is very important that who are your surroundings, because if you're surrounded by all the data engineers, the chances are very high that you land into a job very quickly.